Archaeologists working in eastern Sudan have stumbled upon thousands of ancient medieval Islamic tombs in the middle of the desert. This discovery is amazing enough by itself, but researchers noticed something a little odd about the tombs. They're shaped like galaxies. By this, we mean the burials are spread out in such a way that from looking down, they resemble stars in the universe. Burials even seem to be clustered around one particular tomb that holds a major importance, kind of like how our own Milky Way is centered around the Sun. According to Live Science, the tombs were discovered in the state of Kassala. By using satellite images as well as fieldwork, the international team of researchers identified over 10,000 tombs. These tombs span an area of around 2,500 kilometers. Archaeologist Stefano Costanzo says there is an obviously deeper meaning to how the tombs were arranged. However, scientists are not exactly clear what that deeper meaning could be, or why these ancient people were so fixated on copying the stars above while creating these vast graveyards. The most significant tombs, those which are found in the middle, have been compared to galactic centers, with researchers saying the younger burials branch out like stars. It's believed that the Beja people created the cemeteries nearly 2,000 years ago. Not much is known about the Beja, other than how they lived in Sudan even after the great Nubians had all vanished. Swimmers in the north of far western Australia got a first-hand opportunity to witness a bull shark and crocodile crossing paths late last year in the Ord River. Speaking with NCA Newswire, witness Chelsea Wood said that people were splashing and fishing in the water, seemingly oblivious to the encounter happening just meters away. She estimated that the saltwater croc was about 16 feet. Drone footage that Wood and her partner Bryce Connell uploaded to YouTube channel Caravan Adventure Oz shows that the massive reptile dwarfed the bull shark. In the video, the crocodile sits motionless as the shark approaches, coming within feet of its adversary. Suddenly, the shark wisely decides against escalating things into a fight and swims away. Wood told the Daily Mail she was glad the footage might raise some awareness about what's lurking in the local waters, where residents were nonchalantly entering the river, seemingly without second thought. When you're down under, sometimes that is not the best plan. Bears are one of the fiercest predators in the wild, sending chills down the spines of campers everywhere. Although they look cute and cuddly, their claws definitely are not. The same goes for their ancient ancestors from the Ice Age, all the way back 20,000 years ago in North America. Back then, they were known as short-faced bears, or by their scientific name, Arctodecimus. They were one of the biggest and strongest predators around, ruling over the icy landscape. The bears weighed up to 900 kilos, and when walking on all four of their massive limbs, they still reached 2 meters in height. And when they were angry or ready to fight, standing on their hind legs, that height more than doubled. That's over twice the height of the average human. You would not want this bear trying to steal your picnic basket, that's for sure. In fact, just give it to him. There are officially 2 recognized species of short-faced bears seen in the Americas, the lesser short-faced bear and the giant short-faced bear. The latter is considered to be one of the largest mammalian carnivores to have ever existed. We can't exactly tell whether or not the short-faced bears were fearsome hunters without traveling back in time, but their fossils tell us they certainly had the capability to be. Scientists suspect they were able to run at speeds of up to 40 kilometers per hour. That's more than quick enough to take on most small prey. This, paired with their incredible sense of smell, made them frightening beasts by our standards. Wouldn't want to face one right now, would you? Are you afraid of bears? Let me know in the comments below. Evolutionary biologists have recently discovered how some species of lizard have the ability to breathe underwater. Biologists from the University of Toronto have successfully shown how the anolis lizard breathes underwater by keeping an air bubble close to its snout. It basically makes its own little diving helmet. Anoles are a group of lizards that live in the tropical Americas. These are semi-aquatic reptiles that dive underwater for long periods of time to avoid predators. Researchers say they can stay submerged for almost up to 20 minutes. But for the longest time, scientists couldn't figure out how they were breathing down there. But now, after great study, they realized anoles have a kind of natural rebreathing technology. Anoles exhale air to form a bubble which then clings to their nose. The lizard can continue to inhale that air over and over again for about 20 minutes before it needs to resurface. They can't use the air bubble forever, but it sure is convenient for longer diving missions. Researchers measured the oxygen in the air bubble and saw that it decreased over time. just like a depleting scuba tank. This is arguably one of the most amazing newly found adaptations of an animal, which scientists say it learned through evolution, since being able to stay submerged underwater meant a higher chance of survival by eluding predators. The only other creatures scientists have studied that can do this are arthropods, water beetle-like creatures. Late last year, a Bengal tiger went head-to-head with a sloth bear in the Tadoba and Dari Tiger Reserve in Maharashtra, India. Tour leader and photographer Arpit Parekh, who works at the national park, captured shocking footage of the encounter, which shows the tiger fearlessly attacking the 1.8-meter-tall, 136-kilo bear, pinning him to the ground and sinking its teeth into him. The distressed, bleeding bear can be heard crying out, but he fought back hard enough to tire out the 300-kilo tiger, who continued to stalk the bear as he walked away. It wasn't long before the injured bear turned around and charged at the tiger, swiping his paw and baring his teeth, and at some point biting the big cat's leg. Finally, the tiger fled into the nearby water. The bear understandably decided to call it quits shortly thereafter and went along his way. The altercation lasted roughly a half hour, according to Parekh, who told Mail Online that the group who witnessed the fight thought that the bear was going to die until the tiger became exhausted and let go. Native to India, sloth bears are among nature's most fearsome predators. In the last 20 years, they've killed hundreds of people and have injured thousands, causing more human deaths per capita than any other bear species. Experts believe that the sloth bear's highly aggressive demeanor stems from living in close proximity to large human populations. Giant bears weren't the only predators living in North America during the Ice Age. As strange as it might sound, lions used to roam the terrain of what is now the United States. And no, you may be thinking of mountain lions, and these may be distant relatives of them, but these icy lions were even bigger than the African lions we have today. Nicknamed the American lion, the Panthera leoatrox weighed nearly 370 kilos apiece, some even more. The predator was dwarfed only by the short-faced bear as far as its size. At its shoulder, it stood 1.2 meters tall. Similar to the African lion, Panthera leoatrox liked to hunt in plains and grasslands, although they did not hunt in packs like their well-known descendant. It was a lone predator while hunting, but likely returned home to a pride, using caves and deep rock formations as its den. Evidence of similar lions can be found lined on cave walls left by our own human ancestors in France and Russia. This shows us that the American lion likely had faint stripes on its coat, rather than the solid-colored lions we know now. It also didn't have a mane. Some preserved skin from the animal was also discovered alongside some of its skeletal remains. After analyzing it, scientists concluded the lion to have been a slightly reddish color. About 80 fossils of the beast have been uncovered in the La Brea tar pits located near Los Angeles. With so many samples to study, researchers have been able to learn a lot about how American lions used to live and how truly terrifying they once were. A Polish treasure hunter has discovered a remarkable hoard of riches over 10 years of plodding through fields and forests with his trusty metal detector. This guy has discovered the wreckage of an American Sherman tank, a scabbard used by a soldier in Napoleon's army, and all kinds of other relics from Europe's violent history. But just recently, in November, he made the discovery of his lifetime in northeastern Poland. In a cornfield, he discovered silver coins that were minted over 1100 years ago. The coins are French, and they were buried over 1,000 miles away from modern-day France. Ever since the discovery, scientists have been trying to figure out how the coins could have ended up so far away. One of the most likely theories was purported by a Polish archaeologist who suggested the silver coins may have been procured by the Viking army when it laid siege to Paris back in 845. For those who don't know the story, the Vikings sailed to Paris on the River Seine, threatened to destroy the city, and said they would only leave if they were given over 2 tons of silver. They were basically like mobsters demanding money for protection, and many historians have referred to 845 as the beginning of an elaborate protection ring that lasted well into the 11th century, with the Vikings even imposing a safety tax in England. And if the Vikings weren't paid, you'd better believe they would bring the hammer down. The silver coins were discovered roughly 50 kilometers from the Polish village of Biskup Peak, where the Vikings once had a major trading post. It's likely that the silver coins were extorted from Paris, brought to Poland, and then buried for later use, only to be lost and forgotten for over 1,000 years. Late last year, photos of a jaguar battling a yellow anaconda in the western Brazilian state of Mato Grosso went viral. Captured by wildlife photographer Chris Brunskill in South America's Pantanal region. The shocking images show the giant snake caught between the jaguar's powerful jaws at the edge of the Cuiabá River. The photos raised several intriguing questions, including how common it is for the two species to fight and which is more likely to win. Writing for Interesting Things, Edmund Torr pointed out that most big cats, including jaguars, are opportunistic hunters who pursue their next meal by searching in places where they're likely to find creatures that are smaller than them. Jaguars are ambush predators who silently stalk their target before pouncing. These water-loving cats are known to eat numerous aquatic animals, including fish, frogs, sea turtles, and even caimans. They kill reptiles mainly by biting them in the head, and this is likely the approach taken by the jaguar featured in Brunskill's photos, according to Torr. During the 2-minute-long fight, the anaconda reportedly bared its fangs to the jaguar several times, even striking its nose at one point. But it wasn't enough for this non-venomous reptile to come out on the winning end of things, or even to slow the jaguar down. In fact, jaguars are not known to ever fall prey to yellow anacondas, despite the latter being one of the world's biggest snakes, typically reaching about 4.6 meters long and weighing as much as 30 kilos, although they can grow much larger. Another video that surfaced earlier this year shows a black jaguar and a green anaconda entangled in a fierce battle, with each trying to pull the other onto its home turf. The fight appeared to end with the jaguar dragging the massive snake out of the water and onto dry land. I guess it's a tough life out there when you're an anaconda. Shifting away from carnivorous beasts, the Megalonyx jeffersoni was a predator of its own, though its prey was mostly of the plant variety. In modern-day West Virginia during the latter half of the 1700s, a giant claw fossil was discovered. Met with great excitement from locals, they wondered what this vicious-looking claw could have belonged to. Even former President Thomas Jefferson, then acting as the head of the American Philosophical Society, was convinced that it must have belonged to a monster of a beast. The former president was quoted describing what he thought the beast looked like. Let us only say, then, that he was more than 3 times as large as the lion. He even went as far as warning the famous Lewis and Clark to watch out for giant lions as they journeyed west. Jefferson would probably be disappointed to find out that the claw did not belong to a monster, but a giant sloth. Though this sloth isn't like the ones we know today, looking all sweet hanging upside down on a tree or talking super slow in popular movies like Zootopia. These sloths weighed almost the same, in many cases more than the short-faced bear, the biggest carnivore of its time period. This huge sloth could weigh up to 1,000 kilos. They stood 3 meters tall and moved slowly and awkwardly. Its arms had 3 massive claws that were used to strip leaves and branches from the trees it fed on. Though if you somehow saw one during the Ice Age, you likely wouldn't be attacked, unless you provoked it, of course. The Megalonyx jeffersoni is a noteworthy creature of the Pleistocene epoch. Scientists have discovered a chocolate frog. That's right, a chocolate tree frog. Of course, this amazing specimen isn't actually made of pure chocolate. You can't eat it. Well, you could, but it probably wouldn't taste very good. The discovery was made in New Guinea, with scientists identifying a tree frog directly related to tree frogs that live in Australia. We've all seen the traditional green tree frog. It's one of the most popular household pets for those who like to collect lizards and frogs. But just across the water in New Guinea, there's a frog that is almost exactly the same as the green tree frog, only coloured chocolate. Researchers now believe that the chocolate frog diverged from ordinary green frogs in Australia millions of years ago and are now widespread through New Guinea. It's just hard to see them because they blend in so well with their surroundings. The frog is a fresh reminder that Australia and New Guinea were part of the same landmass only 10,000 years ago. New Guinea was connected to Australia by a land bridge known as the Sahul Shelf, so it's no surprise that many animals are similar between the two islands. But the division of the green and chocolate frogs goes back even further, to about 5.3 million years ago. The green tree frog evolved to survive in the savanna, while the chocolate frog evolved to survive in the swamp, and probably any chocolate fountains it happens to come across. As one of nature's most aggressive predators, crocodiles have very few animals to fear. But one of these ferocious reptiles met its match in northern Queensland, Australia in 2014 when it crossed paths with a 3-meter-long python. Local author Tiffany Corliss was among the spectators who watched as the python wrapped itself around the crocodile, suffocating it to death over a long, drawn-out struggle. Speaking with the BBC, Corliss said that the fight began in the water, with the crocodile struggling to keep its head from being submerged. She also described the huge snake rolling the crocodile around to get a better grip, holding the animal's legs tightly to its body. The fight lasted a staggering 5 hours, witness Alice Rosenthal told the news outlet. Toward the end of the ordeal, both creatures appeared exhausted, but the snake ultimately came out on the winning end. After killing its victim, the snake uncoiled itself and began to devour the crocodile, slowly swallowing it whole, head first. It took the snake 15 minutes to eat its meal, according to Corliss. Did you ever think that a snake could defeat a crocodile? Do you think this snake just got lucky? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Popularized from the mega-hit TV show Game of Thrones and similar fantasy fiction, direwolves are more than the made-up stories they got their fame from. That's right, the giant canines were real. Our human ancestors living during the Ice Age had to deal with the massive beasts, and they would not have been domesticated. Instead, they'd probably be trying to eat you. Although there could have been someone back in the day that had a puppy or two, you'd never know. Scientifically known as Canis dirus, direwolves were similar to the wolves we have today, just much heavier. Their heads were huge, containing large jaws and teeth that allowed them to have a powerful bite. They were able to take on all kinds of large prey: camels, bison, horses, giant sloths, and even small mammoths. According to some researchers, they tended to hunt in packs, but unlike modern wolves, they just couldn't run long distances. This forced them to resort to ambush tactics for their prey, leading experts to believe they were a highly intelligent species. Direwolves were thought to have originally evolved in South America, eventually traveling north on the hunt for food. However, America's grey wolves today are believed to have an Asian descent, making the two species more distant relatives than expected. Their many similarities have been attributed to convergent evolution, the process of two species independently evolving similar features. Remains of the direwolf have been found over a large range of habitats such as plains, forested mountains, South American savannas, and forested North American mountains. These fossils show us that the direwolf lived as close as 9,500 years ago. Although it would be pretty cool to have a pet direwolf like Jon Snow, these ferocious beasts would have dominated ecosystems if they were still around today. A sea creature like you wouldn't believe was witnessed recently in the deep waters of the central Pacific Ocean. To be quite honest, most people don't even know this underwater miracle exists. It's one of the rarest cephalopods known to science. It's called a glass octopus, and it is absolutely stunning. Marine biologists spotted the elusive creature during an expedition near the Phoenix Islands, roughly 4,800 kilometers from Australia. The glass octopus is completely translucent. Its whole body is pale, see-through blue, except for its cylindrical eyes, which are bright orange. It's also possible to see the optic nerve and the digestive tract inside the octopus. The rest of it is completely opaque. Up until this newest encounter, there haven't been many meetings between scientists and glass octopi. It wasn't even identified until 1918, and since then, there have only been a handful of sightings. The creature lives in the twilight and midnight zones of the ocean, which means it ranges from around 200 to around 3,000 meters deep. Not a lot is known about the glass octopus, as no live specimens have ever been studied. It's believed that it has grown opaque to be invisible to predators, but really, scientists are just throwing guesses into the air when it comes to this majestic beast. It's easy to assume that no marine creature, even a killer whale or orca, could defeat the great white shark, which has a reputation for being the ocean's most aggressive apex predator. But as shark content editor Dr. Blake Chapman pointed out in an Australian Geographic article last year, a battle to the death isn't just black and white. For one thing, orcas are much bigger and smarter than great whites, and they've been observed preying on the sharks, according to Science Focus. Several studies also point towards killer whales being the more formidable force. In recent years, researchers monitoring wildlife near California's southeast Farallon Island noticed that when orcas appeared in the region, all 17 of the great white sharks they were tracking fled and stayed away until the following season. There could be several reasons for this, including the possibility that killer whales hunt great whites, or that killer whales outcompete the sharks for food. When 5 dead great white sharks washed ashore in False Bay, South Africa last year, marine experts noticed that they had been sliced open and their livers were missing. Based on teeth marks in the carcasses, the researchers suspected that the sharks had fallen prey to orcas, who appeared to have ripped their victims open in a gory tug-of-war. Great whites lack a swim bladder, and their livers are very buoyant and fatty. For a killer whale, this amounts to a nutritious and delicious meal packed with high-energy lipids. Observations of orcas preying on great white sharks are rare, with the first known recorded instance happening in 1997. There have only been a handful of known occurrences since then, but the evidence is enough to challenge the long-held notion that great whites are a bigger threat to killer whales than the other way around. Movies like Ice Age showing friendly versions of ancient animals do a good job of introducing young audiences to historic beasts, but the movies do lack some harsh truths about fan favorites like the saber-toothed tiger. Their scientific name is Smilodon, and although this sounds like a friendly beast, they were fierce predators. Other than the woolly mammoth, the Smilodon is likely the most widely known prehistoric mammal. The creature first received its name back in 1842 when its fossils were discovered in Brazil. Its name quite literally means scalpel or two-edged knife, based on its incredible teeth. The upper canines they were named for came in a pair, and they were over 7 inches long. The Smilodon even weighed close to 600 pounds, or nearly 280 kilos. The skilled hunters were able to take down bison, deer, camels, and other prey. Similar to the direwolf, scientists theorized that the saber-toothed cat had to rely on ambush tactics for hunting. Since its teeth were susceptible to breaking, the cat would first surprise its prey by leaping onto it, restraining it with the cat's claws, then use its teeth for the final, fatal blow. The Smilodon lived in closed habitats like forests that would have given it ample cover for hunting. Sadly, the beast died out around 10,000 years ago along with other creatures like it. Researchers surmise that it became extinct due to its reliance on larger prey animals paired with climate change. During Nat Geo Wild's 8th annual Big Cat Week in 2017, the channel aired harrowing footage of a violent encounter between a jaguar and a cayman in the world's largest tropical wetland. Known as the Pantanal, it spans parts of Brazil, Paraguay, and Bolivia, and it's home to the planet's largest jaguars, according to USA Today. Nat Geo photographer Steve Winter and wildlife filmmaker Bertie Gregory captured the interspecies squabble while following a notorious jaguar who's named Scarface for his array of old battle wounds. The video shows Scarface quickly traveling through water in pursuit of a cayman, his latest target in a series of 14 failed hunts that the pair observed over a nearly week-long period. After being eluded by capybaras and giant river otters, Scarface finally succeeded in securing his next meal when he pounced on the 55-kilo reptile and snatched it up with his powerful jaws. Footage shows the big cat dragging his victim up onto the riverbank and into some bushes to feast. When it comes down to the question of who's more likely to win in a fight between a jaguar and a cayman, Winter implied that it's not exactly surprising that the mammal emerged victorious. The jaguars that live in the Pantanal weigh up to 136 kilos and are among nature's most formidable predators. But Scarface's defeat against the cayman, which is equipped with 74 sharp teeth and a powerful jaw and tail, is nevertheless impressive, especially since an estimated 85% of jaguar hunts in the area are unsuccessful. Another herbivore earned its spot here with its massive size. Commonly referred to as the Irish elk, scientifically named the Megaloceros giganteus, the ancient deer had some of the largest antlers to have ever existed. They measured as long as most humans are tall and could weigh up to 20 kilos each. As a whole, the deer likely weighed around 700 kilos and was about the size of an Alaskan moose. The initial discovery of its antlers shocked archaeologists. Jens Christian Svenning from the Aarhus University located in Denmark said, "People thought, how did these creatures move around with such enormous antlers? Wouldn't they be constantly bashing into trees?" But in those cold periods there were glaciers and tundra, and it was pretty open. That's why these creatures could do so well. And they were doing pretty well for themselves, until humans and Neanderthals entered the picture, that is. With their massive size, the Irish elk became a quick target for hunting. And those impressive antlers? Well, the hunting groups used to force the creature into wooded areas, making it difficult for the animal to maneuver around, and easy for the hunters to trap and kill it. It was a beautiful creature though, and it probably made for a beautiful feast to ancient humans. It is extremely rare for lions and tigers to cross paths in the wild, but sometimes this happens in captivity and the results can be deadly, as one zoo in Cheonju, South Korea learned in 2008. While trying to catch a chicken that a zookeeper had thrown into his pen, a lion named Chongi fell about 16 feet or 5 meters into a trench that separated his enclosure from zoo visitors. A Siberian tiger named Hobie then jumped into the ditch. She landed poorly and Chongi fatally bit her neck. The two big cats were about equal in length, but the 243-pound lion outweighed Hobie by about 44 pounds, according to the Korea Times. A zookeeper told the news outlet that it was rare for a lion and a tiger to fight, but that Chongi seemed to think that Hobie had invaded his territory. He further explained that the winner in an interspecies squabble like this depends mostly on who gets a head start and acts more aggressively. Another unlikely encounter between a lion and a tiger happened in 2019 in India. Indian Forest Service officer Susanta Nanda captured the scuffle on video, which shows a lion approaching the tiger, biting its neck and swiping its paw at the fellow big cat. The tiger reacted swiftly, striking the lion across its face with its paw. For the lion, that was quite enough to prove that it was fighting a losing battle, and in a display of defeat, it walked away. Nanda told India Today that tigers fight like boxers and that their paws are powerful enough to smash a cow's skull, a lesson that the lion learned the hard way. Famously known for its creepy, cackling-type laugh, hyenas have haunted the savannas for much longer than you might suspect. They are even traced back as far as the Ice Age with their ancestors named cave hyenas. This is a fun one. The Latin name is Crocuta spellii. They measured about 1 meter high and 1.5 meters long, weighing around 225 kilos. Similar to their African cousins that live today, cave hyenas were fierce avengers and predators, hunting in open plains mainly. They were known to live and hunt in social groups of up to 30. After studying remains found of the creatures, researchers have concluded that the hyenas would eat pretty much anything they could get their hands on. They are more known to be scavengers, but also have the ability to hunt in the hopes of a decent meal. The remains say that a majority of their meals consisted of prehistoric wild horses and giant woolly rhinoceroses, which were both plentiful during the time. Interestingly enough, cave hyenas and Neanderthals have a close history together. The hyenas would often live in caves, and Neanderthals would sometimes evict them out of their cave homes to claim it as their own. Then the hyenas would eventually retake their home. This game of back and forth is linked to the reasoning behind why cave hyenas would often change homes, not staying in the same place for too long for fear of an unwelcome eviction notice. Who knew landlords had been around that long? Like all the animals on this list, the cave hyenas eventually went extinct. Due to competition for food, the predator eventually had to resort to smaller animals that offered little sustenance. This change of diet would inevitably seal their fate. Cougars, also called mountain lions, are one of North America's most feared predators. People are equally scared of bears, to be fair. While both actually have more reasons to fear us than the other way around and typically flee in our presence, things tend to turn out differently when the two species come face to face with each other. Two videos that have circulated online offer a rare first-hand glimpse at these types of encounters. One contains Animal Planet footage showing a young cougar approaching a young, sleeping bear who doesn't seem to want to fight. As the bear backs cautiously away from the aggressor, the cougar advances forward, baring its claws, and attempts to pounce on the bear, who fights back and effectively wards off its attacker. But the cougar lingers nearby for some time before finally leaving the scene and allowing the bear to return to its den. Another video shows a much more violent encounter between an adult cougar and an adult brown bear. With two cubs nearby to protect, it's no wonder the cougar is quick to become aggressive, sinking her fangs into the bear's hide. The bear, who has no cubs, quickly gets the message and retreats from the scene. Many people bring up the dodo first when discussing prehistoric birds, but there's one type of ancient bird most have never even heard about, known as the diatryma or Gastornis. The diatryma was about 2.25 meters tall. It had smaller wings that were unused and giant, thick legs, leading scientists to think they were incredibly fast runners. The bird also had a strong beak, and because of the beak's size, it also had a large head to support it. Its neck was fairly short with only 13 vertebrae, and it also had a short torso, making for an awkward-looking bird at best. The first Gastornis fossils were discovered in 1855 at the Argyle Plastique Formation near Paris. Because of the sheer size of the specimen, there was a lot of excitement for its discovery. It was also one of the oldest known birds at the time. There has been a long-standing debate about the Gastornis' diet and whether or not it was carnivorous. Due to its beak and legs, some researchers argue it would have been more than able to catch quick prey, leading to the belief of it being an ambush predator. Others suggest that the massive skull size and structure was perfect for a herbivore diet. It's even possible the bird was an omnivore. Whatever it was, this awkward-looking giant dodo bird would have been terrifying to be chased down by. In 1995, a program was started to reintroduce grey wolves to Yellowstone Natural Park. Doug Smith, the Yellowstone Wolf Project's leader, revealed early last year that the interactions between grey wolves and grizzly bears constituted some of the most fascinating observations he had made since the program began. Grizzly bears are drawn to wolves' dens by the smell of the food that they bring to their young, according to Smith, and while bears are more powerful, wolves are faster and tend to outnumber bears. He likened the encounters to mosquitoes surrounding a larger specimen, stating that if there are enough of them, they'll win. The wolves aren't quick to give up when a bear comes near their den, but the dynamics change when a bear goes near wolf kills. Smith once watched as a bear took control of a dead bull elk that 24 wolves had taken down, helping himself to the meal while the entire pack looked on. Another time, 4 bears took turns feeding on an animal that 10 wolves had just killed. Come on, bears! Rare footage that made the rounds on social media late last year shows a wolf pack surrounding a lone grizzly after it tried to steal a carcass that they had hunted. Interestingly, as Smith pointed out, these encounters are rarely violent, but typically involves the wolves trying to harass a bear into leaving their meal alone. While trying to figure out what was killing large number of harbour seals near the Svalbard archipelago back in 2008, researchers were stunned to find polar bear remains in the stomach of a Greenland shark. The discovery of a young polar bear's jawbone challenged the previously held belief that killer whales are the only real threat to the species. A clash between the deep-dwelling Greenland shark, which can grow to over 6 meters long, and the Arctic's top predator seemed unbelievable to the team. The experts speculated that perhaps polar bears are spending more time in the water due to climate change, which is melting polar ice and shrinking the species' habitat. They also theorized that warming waters are driving the Greenland shark northward. Shark experts were quick to point out the likelihood that the shark just fed on a polar bear carcass, and that even a young polar bear would be a formidable opponent against a Greenland shark. But nobody knows for sure whether the meal was scavenged or hunted by a very, very lucky shark. Yep, we said that right, giant beavers. As the last herbivore predator on the list, and the largest known rodent in North America, these giant beavers, also known as Gastornis, may have had a plant-based diet, but they were vicious when it came to protecting what was theirs. With massive front incisor teeth, they were able to gouge into any bigger carnivorous predators coming to get them. No thanks! Their teeth acted as 15-centimeter long protectors. They weighed close to 77 kilos, had long tails, and webbed feet. The shape of the beaver's skull indicates that it spent long periods of time underwater. Thankfully, their lungs also had the capability to take in more oxygen, which enabled their watery adventures. One big difference between our beavers today and these ancient ones is that their brain was much smaller. No evidence has been found indicating that the Gastornis built dams in the water, which was likely due to their smaller brain size, linked to less complex thoughts and interactions with the environments they lived in. There have been a lot of felines on our list, so it only makes sense to wrap things up with one too. Similar to the American lion, a distant cousin comes with a few more spots as the ancient American cheetah. This cheetah stood roughly 85 centimeters tall at its shoulder and weighed around 70 kilos. Unlike the cheetah we see on National Geographic today, the American cheetah was more than likely not a fast runner. It had much shorter legs than its modern counterpart, which were equipped for climbing rather than running. This cat lived in prairies or plains in North America and was a predator to hooved animals like horses, bison, and pronghorns. Fossil evidence shows that the American cheetah competed for food with other fierce felines of the day like saber-toothed tigers and cave hyenas. It truly was a battle of the cats during the Ice Age. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Which of these predators did you find the most interesting? Let us know in the comments down below, and remember to leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this.